My name is Richard Medhurst, and I'm joined today by a very special guest, Ghadi Francis. Ghadi is a Lebanese journalist and a war correspondent. She has a show on WION called the West Asia Post. She's also worked for many Lebanese channels like El Jadid, which is very famous. She's also got a lovely show called Bil Mubashar, which she had me on, and I was very happy to go on there and speak with her. Thank you, Ghadi, for taking the time to come on, and it's really great to see you again.
Thank you, Richard. Well, I'm confiscating Bil Mubashar, which is my colleague's space to have like in person some conversations, but it's Rawad and Iyad's anyways.
I loved speaking with you the other day because I felt like I was among like-minded people. And, you know, I thought, just could you tell us maybe a bit about yourself, like your background, how you came to work in news, what interested you in this field?
Well, I'm very much similar to you. Like, I didn't have it as a choice, Richard. For us, it's not like an added luxury for your life. I'm fighting for my own rights, for the own possibility and future of my own community and my own children, if I have ones. And basically, maybe I can't have ones because my country is not fine. Or if I have ones, it would be to save my country and liberate it. So in this part of the world, in the Levant, in Lebanon, in Palestine, in Syria, in Iraq, it's not like, well, I'm an activist and I'd like to choose this cause. It's basically, you're either dead or writing about it or fighting for it or conspiring against it. I don't see true people in this region, and not in terms of what is happening to us from colonization, ever since like after the war or even before the World War I, since the Ottoman Empire and so on. For me, I am a journalist, but it wasn't by choice. I studied biology in college, but I started writing in newspapers at a very young age. I was 17, actually. And I was writing in a Safir newspaper, and I was writing about Palestine pretty much. And Hanzala, which is like Najil Ali caricature for Palestine. So I started there, and then Syria happened, and I found myself passionate enough to be in Syria and to write for the newspaper. So I was maybe the first, or one of the very few first, and literally the first one who went into Hama in 2011, which was the first base of the opposition to actually discover what this opposition was. So I was really bragging that I went there and Robert Fisk didn't. I was so young at that age. And things kept on going from there. Once you are opening your eyes to journalism and activism from the land of Syria in the middle of this kind of war, you just, you can't stop, and you probably know. And then in 2012, 2013, when I was in Egypt in the Arab League to talk about Syria and my journalism in Syria, in Cairo, all I could think about was like, Gaza is just like 3 hours in the car. I'm going to go there. So I went there. So it's not about, and I wasn't working with I didn't have any affiliation with any newspaper or TV at the time. I just had my handycam. So I'm very, very similar to you. And
I completely understand. And speaking of which, you've been to Gaza, and if I'm not mistaken, I saw you in the tunnels. How did you end up in the tunnels?
Well, the thing, Richard, is that I couldn't enter if it weren't in the tunnels.
Right.
You see, I did it. I entered. This is the basis of why people don't know nothing about Gaza. When we say it's an open air prison, it is a prison. Even if you are in solidarity, even if you're a journalist, even if you're a family member, Rafah has been closed for over a decade. The Egyptians have been closing Rafah.
Yeah.
And even me as a journalist, the legit way, my colleagues, my fellow journalists hosted me by telling me to wait at the Rafah crossing for a driver who will come and take me to a place where I will enter and be allowed in via a tunnel, which is what I did. I entered via the tunnel and I exited via the tunnel. The tunnels were the lifeline for medicine, for humans, for people, for life, for fuel, for gas, for anything you needed to do anything. And you know what these people did with these tunnels? They were able to stay alive because because they not only deserve life, they teach life, just like Rafif Ziad said. Because even in these conditions, Richard, they're more they're more hardworking, they're more restless, they have beautiful startups, and they don't feel inferior. This is something to be really gazed upon. I've been to Gaza, and I was going there as a Lebanese, Pashi person who had the entitlement to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I could go there with a handicap. And then I found that they were teaching me that I knew nothing about journalism because they knew more. And I knew nothing about cameras because they knew more. Or languages, or whatever technology I thought I would be superior or more attainable in Beirut. No, they really taught me a lot. And I spent 6 or 7 days. I slept in 3 different, I was hosted in 3 different homes of 3 different backgrounds. And I did this on purpose. Al-Jabha al-Sha'biyya, and some neo-Hamas people, which were like businessmen Hamas, because Hamas is not all fighters, Some of the Hamases are in Qatar, and I don't even respect them. So, also the Christian community and the church community. And getting to know that, I discovered that Gaza, Richard, is just as grand as a tourism destination as Tripoli or Sidon or all of our Mediterranean prehistoric cities. It is a prehistoric city. There's a Temple of the Sun over there. Right. So, and this is what I can think. All I can think about today is that I was able to salvage a lot of footage, a lot of brushes, many hours of the actual Gaza before this genocide, because all of that is not here anymore.
Yeah, it's worth its weight in gold. You also ended up in Yemen, right? How was it? How did you go there? I think you were working with Al Jadid back then. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How did you find it?
Well, Yemen found me. That was a different kind of experience. There are always some Yemenis all around the world. Many Yemenis were gathered in Beirut for different reasons. Some of the reasons are like in the past there was the communist leftist resistance groups, and the southern part of Yemen. It was like a hub for. George Howie and some leftists in Lebanon that were involved with the resistance groups and so on. So there is a certain knowledge of Yemen and Lebanon for activists, and I kind of I preyed on that. So I got an invite by a certain political group in southern part of Yemen to go and discover them. They are a political party, and they were calling for They wanted to come back to governing the southern part, and this was in 2011. They are named Al-Hirak Al-Janubi, the southern wave, or the southern movement. So they invited me because the president of the southern movement at the time used to live in Lebanon. They invited me to cover them, but I did something else. I covered the whole thing that I could see, because I flew through Sana'a, so I had the reports from Sana'a. And when I was in the south, I thought Al-Qaeda was starting in the south. So I went to Al-Qaeda Emirate, and the first one in Abyan. And I also said Bab al-Mandeb is here. This is where 60% of the world's oil is. I'm going to go there. So I ended up reporting on 10 reports from Yemen. And these were, there weren't any Houthi war or movement, but I also encountered Houthi movement or Ansarullah inside the society in Sana'a. And I was amazed because I had a totally different idea back then. This is what I did in Yemen.
It's beautiful, really. I think I saw you standing next to the the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. You're right at the coast. Amazing, and it's so relevant and talked about today. And people have no idea of all this rich history in Yemen, in Gaza. It's astonishing.
I'm so flattered because I'm always I saw this 10 years ago. It's going to happen. Somebody give me some credit. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Your Qawmiyya, can you give us a background about what that is? Why has this idea of, a united Syria deteriorated? Why is it not working anymore? Or is it still working? What do you think?
Well, I think it is just transcendent, but it is still working just as much, because when you see where ISIS is active, Or when you see where the Zionists want to, why don't we ever hear the Zionists talking to Egypt the same brutality they do to Syria? Where do you see them fighting? I mean, if we wanted a narration of what is the unity, you look at the economy, you look at the people, you look at the war, you look at the security, you look at the law, you look at the terrors, you look at the good. I mean, al-maslaha, the good of all is to unite in general. But I don't want to just say things about what's better for whom, or what Daesh, ISIS did, or what the Zionists do. No, I want to go back through facts. And if we want to go to science, the science of sociology says that the nations are formed in such a way. So if we go back to the science of the formation of societies and cultures and nations, the geographical and the historical and the anthropology of this region tell us, and the history, of course, tell us that the geographical borders of Turkey, Iran, and the Arab Peninsula leave us with a Levantine nation that is once called Mesopotamia, once called Greater Syria, once called the Levant. This residue of these nations is the war. It has been the war for more than a century back, and it has been the target. And why has it been divided after Sykes-Picot when it was taken from the Ottoman Empire? Because if Syria wasn't divided, there couldn't be anyone taking Palestine, because Palestine would be an issue of a nation, not of a stranded part of this nation left out next to Egypt, next to Sinai Peninsula, and so on. And the same things. If it weren't divided, how could you make up a society of Levantine Christians, of Eastern Christians that want to kill each other? If you don't divide them from the Christians in Syria and the Christians in Palestine, you cannot breed that kind of racism in Lebanese Christians, and so on. So it has been one, it was born one, it was ruled as one by the Ottomans, okay? And it was formed as one when Babylon was there, Phoenicia was there, and Babylon and Phoenicia did trade together and did marry each other, and they worshiped the same goddess, Ashtar. And this, at the time, was how you could calculate a nation's borders. And today, if it's war or economy, it is still one nation to me. So Qawmiyya is people who look at this region as one, who feel with it as one, who belong to it as one, and approach it as one in politics and geography and society. But I will tell you right straight, because it has a problem in Lebanon. When you say Qawmiyya Suriya, they tell you go to Syria, as illiterate as that is. They say it. And I must say, I don't love anyone more than Lebanon. I don't love anyone more than the village where I was born, my dad's village, actually. But that doesn't mean that the whole nation is my village. And actually, the better future for my village and my country and my father and my family and Lebanon and Syria and Iraq is to unite economically, touristically, individuals and communities, and so on. So this is trying to break down what Qawmiyya is.
Let me ask you an even tougher question. Do you consider yourself...
these are tough questions.
Do you consider yourself Lebanese or Syrian?
Of course I am Lebanese, but the whole Lebanon is Syrian.
Very well put. Very well put. You spoke about Christians.
That's gonna be really problematic. But really, as per what I just recited here, and also if we want to go back to the, to what Khalil Gibran wrote.
Yeah.
He referred to the area as Syria, and he said, my Syrian country, Lebanon. He did that. He said it literally.
Yes.
Khalil Gibran is maybe like, I think he's more credible than the states that were formed by the French Mandate. I think
there's no question.
There
is no question about that. Undoubtedly. Ghadi, you mentioned Christians. You're Christian yourself, like me. And there are many people who are Christian, who resist the occupation. Maybe talk to us about that, because in the West, the perception is that in the Middle East, you have resistance, but they call it terrorism, and they think it's only Muslims. They have a very misinformed idea of what it really is in the Middle East. So tell us about the good Christians, not the ones that you mentioned earlier.
Well, I'm very eager because I have a book here lying somewhere, which I need to start reading, and I wanted to give it to you. I'll give you the name. It's about the Christian Zionism and the birth of it since the 18th century, actually, in this region. Well, I don't see how I can be a Christian and not be driven towards Christ's land and heritage. I mean, because I'm a Christian, I really, really, really want to see where he was born. I really, really want to walk where he was oppressed or where he walked or where he preached. This is my Christianity to me. Why can I go to Italy and see Saint Rita? Why can I go to Lourdes in France? And they are really very important to me and to my spirituality. But I mean, why am I not allowed as a Christian who was born here, who in Galilee, in my country, Jesus did his his miracles. Yeah. Okay, so we are more related as peoples in every sense of a culture, of a heritage, and maybe if you do some DNA, we'd go back to more like we are more Semite than anyone else in the world. So why am I not allowed? Why am I oppressed from my total and complete Christianity? This is what the perspective which I see Palestine as a Christian. If I want to go, but politics is never regarded, and I'm so proudly surprised that I never knew what your religion is, Richard, because I don't think of anyone as their religion, because right. I think of it as a personal choice. And many people of different religions are bad and good. Atheists or without any religions or with different religions. And, you grow and you travel and you see Buddhism and Hinduism and you see all kinds of cultures and religions. And you learn that even not all the books that we understand are the only goodness around there in the world. So it's not about Christianity or Islam. To me, it is very weird in Lebanon to be Christian and say, I want to tell the West, your missionaries, I want to show you a travel book, okay? Your missionaries whom you sent to do these books, you West, your colonizing spies whom you sent to write these travel books in the 17th and 18th century to tell you that we are peasants, they were illiterate. You are illiterate. You know nothing about the Levant or the Levantine Christianity. Your spies were stupid back then, and they are stupid today. And even when you look at the Levant and you look at the Christians of the Levant, you have to understand that they are literally blood related to Christ. So we tell you how to be a Christian. You are followers of the religion that was birthed in our land. So you want to be Christian? You come. We are so open to teach you. We have the best preachers out there. But you are not Christian enough yet to tell us how it is supposed to be or how it's supposed to happen. So I'm showing you these missionary books because, Richard, you're going to love them when you read them. I mean, they refer to Latakia, for example. Mm-hmm. The land that literally invented language. Okay, they look because they've sent some colonizers who have the sense of superiority, speaking and describing Syrian home life. And I look at it and think, this is so wrong. This didn't happen. So this is where the Westerners built their understanding of the Levant and the Levantine Christianity. So, they were lousy spies back then.
No, but I love how you just laid it out. Everything. I'm not even going to add anything because there's nothing to be added. Just perfect. What did you think? I want to ask you what you thought of the strikes by Iran, because I was talking about resistance a second ago. This wasn't really just Iran. It was the whole resistance axis. I mean, everybody did something. Just tell me what was going through your mind when you got the news.
Well, I want to tell you something, Richard, not to brag, but I had a conversation with Elijah Magnier that was also on Bil Mubashar before that, after the assassination of Zahedi. And we were actually articulating that Iran doesn't strike the same way we would think it would, because when Qasem Soleimani was assassinated in Baghdad, what they did is that they showed the Americans what they can do, but they killed no one, if you remember.
Yes, I remember.
They showered Ain al-Assad, and it was the first time they do that. And it dragged on ever since. So, I mean, if you are like, if you're reading and you're doing your homework as an analyst about the Middle East, you'd understand the Iranian way of war by now. And they did many things. They did many targets in that kind of strike. First of all, they said that they can do basically the rush of the settlers, the rush of the colonizers to their colonized built airport within seconds. This is something great. This is something great because it is like re-identifying who's who, you know? Because really they were drones. You know, Richard, they were drones. We are talking 6 months of continuous, non-stop drones over the heads of Gaza's people with killing, with nobody left their land. They are typically pushing them, starving them away from their land. And a millisecond of news about drones coming from Iran. And the colonizers are going back home. They're going back home, you know? Yeah. So this was a display of what is what. And it was a good reminder for everyone. On the other hand, I know people want Iran to go into war. We all know that Netanyahu is probably praying, if he has a God, every day for that, because, you know, like Iran, the pariah, we are here to fight Iran because, you know, Israel, the whole presence of Israel is just a United States of America, militarized, radicalized bunch of people built here, and they are built to like harbor their interests, you know, of colonizing us, basically. And who is standing against that colonization in this region? It's Iran. So I think like the best raison d'etre for Netanyahu today is to fight Iran. I think so, because nobody can, although the Americans are backing him and everybody is backing him in his genocide of the Palestinian people, nobody can openly say that, but they can openly give him more ammunition and more help because he's fighting Iran that doesn't allow people to put veils.
Yeah.
So killing children is allowed, you know, in the Middle East, but
that's fine.
Yeah. So I think what Iran did is very smartly put and very bravely put as well. And it is like pushing the retaliation, making zero mistakes in terms of a global diplomacy. And no, on the contrary, it is showing up as the better diplomatic state in the Middle East than the pariah, the actual pariah, baby killer, genocidal, crazy bunch of psychopaths, colonizers living in occupied Palestine. I mean, who turned out in the end of the day more respectable to all the nations? I'm talking about Europe. I'm talking about the real nations, the real lobbies, the real politicians, not these because we have mouthpieces online all over from the UK and the USA, but we have lobbyists who are seriously working on removing Netanyahu because they cannot clean after him anymore. So these people probably, Iran gained many points, you know, for its future, for any talks that would be in the region. And also the Emirates and Saudi Arabia and Jordan, the way things were playing out in the Middle East, I think Iran has constantly showed its deep understanding of what is best for them to do. I'm not talking it's the best for Palestine. Of course, I would wish that Iran has the capability to remove them all once and for all. But we all know that it's an issue that my nation has to solve because Palestine is in my nation. I don't want anyone to liberate us and then take us from someone else. We have to liberate ourselves or else we're never going to be free.
I want to ask you about Lebanon and Syria more broadly, because inside of, you know, our country in the Levant, you have a lot of voices trying to push people against the resistance, to make them hate Iran, to make them oppose Hezbollah, to make them hate the Syrian government. What can you tell me about that?
Well, I think it's not only about people trying to make people. I think the Syrian government and the Islamic Republic of Iran and in general, the resistance groups do their own shares of mistakes on why people don't like them. I'm talking about their ways in media and their PR, and it's not the best or the smartest way. I mean, I always wonder, is it because the Americans invented propaganda that they do it better? Because nobody who fights Americans does propaganda as well as they do, you know? And no, on the contrary, they do bad PR. So even if you like Iran and politics, so if you go and visit Iran, you're probably gonna like maybe like have mixed feelings sometimes, really. And Syria as well. I mean, if you see how the Syrian state talks to journalists or governs them, you're gonna have to have a problem somewhere. So, and it's most probably it's just because of the bureaucracy and their ways, and because they never prioritize these things, because they've always built on their military capacity, and this was their points of strength. So they don't care about looking good for you, you know. But this has resulted in losses in terms of popularity. I mean, we can talk about Hezbollah in 2006. It was the Sayyid Nasrallah was the king of the kings in terms of popularity. And today it's not the same, you see. So it has to do with many things, but it's also because in terms of PR, you change how you speak to people and things change around you. Coming back to this region and how much people are trying to fight the resistance in Syria. In Iraq also, it's not to be disregarded in Iraq. In politics, Americans are really very active. So, and in all the region, how it's not new, Richard. And I wish I could remove another book from my bunch of books putting behind my phone for this interview, because I have a book here. It's called المتاهة اللبنانية by رؤوفين أرليخ. سياسة الحركة الصهيونية ودولة إسرائيل. It's called the Lebanon Maze. And it is basically the policy between the Zionism and Lebanon since 1918 till 1958. So this shows you what the people in this region were doing with the Zionists before the formation of the modern day Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Iraq, because it was still the Ottoman Empire at the time. Okay, so even back then there were people, as in tribes, you know. The feudal lords, families, politicians, clergymen, they were people pro-Zionism in this region, and they helped them, and they formed parties for them, and they governed for them. And it is not a result of today. It is a result of something that has been played out very smartly by the evil Zionist movement. And how to colonize us. Nobody could colonize us if they didn't have people working for them on the inside. And they did. So now I try to, like, for my own happiness and strength and stamina in my activism, I try to always keep them in how strong they are. Because back in the day, I'm talking about the 50s, 60s, 70s, they were even stronger. And they resulted in actually losing the land, you know. But today, whatever they do, the tide is turning, because whatever they do, no matter how strong they become, nobody is being able to defeat the resistance, for God's sake. 6 months of genocide, you know. And even in Lebanon, I mean, whatever they do, who can even, like, it takes 3 minutes if we want to calculate the strength of the resistance on a military and even popularity. It has more than half Lebanon. There are MPs, and each MP that comes, and it is for Hezbollah and the Lebanese parliament, they have like 55,000 votes. And you have MPs for these anti-Hezbollah, they come with like 1,000 votes. So even when they have more MPs inside the parliament, the system is made in a way that it's not really reflective of the real strength. Resistance is the most popular among its people because it's protecting them, even when it doesn't do anything right. I mean, I'm someone who doesn't like the ideology, but I'm pro, because who's going to protect me and my children? Who's going to protect me? These activists online on Twitter, yani going to protect me from Israel?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Lebanon and everything that's been happening in the 2 weeks, explain this to me. Explain this to the viewers with Pascal Sleiman and why Syrians were being attacked. Who's behind all this? What's going on?
Well, first of all, I want to apologize from the viewer, from you, from myself, and from life itself, that we are taking time to discuss something as really, because, you know, it is one person. More than 30,000 have been killed. Allah yarhamu, may his soul rest in peace. He's a victim of crime, like maybe every day in Lebanon and every country in the world. People are dying in robberies or in accidents, or even sometimes they are killed. But he's a victim. Now, the difference between this man, this precious man to his family and his community, and may his precious soul rest in peace, the difference between him and any human who dies anywhere else in the world is that he is in a political party that likes to be in a civil war because it has no reason to exist if there's no civil war in Lebanon. Its leader is a civil warlord who was imprisoned, by the way, for bombing some church. I'm not making it up. So this is the political party, and there was an accident, and the man died. As per the Lebanese authorities, it was a robbery gone bad or whatever. So the luck is this political party has him like he's in charge of a certain district called Jbeil. And it's very romantic to the civil warlord because in the civil war they had all their masterpieces of civil war dealings were done in Jbeil. So probably it went dramatically because they need to talk against Hezbollah all the time. Also to add up to their raison d'etre, because as a political group, I still don't know. I'm 35 years old. I still really don't know what does it mean to be with the Lebanese forces. I mean, what is their ideology or their political idea? What kind of Lebanon they want? What's their views for economy, for civil law? I have no idea what they stand for other than who they're fighting. I mean, they are defined by fighting people, and they're always Lebanese, the people they like to fight. So this is what happened. A man died, and they tried to make a fuss out of it. And the actual people who can make war in Lebanon, which are the resistance, and they have all the weapons and the history, they never fight inside Lebanon unless Israel is fighting them from inside Lebanon. So right. These people in the same week, another man from this community called Mohammed Srour was assassinated by Mossad inside Lebanon in an area. Nobody came to that area. Nobody said who allowed the Mossad to kill our person here. Why are you there? Nobody asked anything. It was all silence. Nobody talked. So this is what has been happening in Lebanon. Now, if you go back in history, it's always been happening the same way. The Lebanese army, by accident or by problem, many years ago in Mar Mikhail, it was very sad that day. There was like a certain protest and 7 young men were killed. And I remember till date that after a week, 2 people were killed in the same way by the same thing. And قامت الدنيا ولم تقعد. So it's not new for us. There's always in Lebanon, because it's in their best interest for Hezbollah and the resistance never to start up problems inside. They are always like very patient in dealing with the Lebanese matters. And everybody who's against them are funded, especially to antagonize them. So you antagonize more to get paid more. So this has been like that. And it's really irrelevant. It's so bad to say that. I know some people are going to find it like somehow like I'm not patriotic enough to say it's relevant. I tell you, Richard, it's not relevant because the Israelis yesterday, as per reports, they sent drones that make sounds like screaming babies and screaming women.
Yeah.
So that people who are inside their homes, they go outside because they think someone is screaming and then they get killed.
I understood the resistance were using this because they know that the Israelis hunt children. And so that was a few months ago. You remember the resistance were like using the sound of children talking so that Israelis would naturally gravitate towards them. And it's a booby trap in the end. But now it seems like they've taken that and they've tried to use it against the civilian population.
The problem. That's the problem. The resistance ever since these bunch of thieves took our land. We fight their army. We don't even fight their settlers. We fight their army and they kill our children. Mm-hmm. I want to really know a good report of how many actual Hamas people Israel was able to kill.
Me too.
I could really bet it's not more than 10 people. And I think the 10 were assassinated in open places. Like the person they killed in Lebanon was coming from the airport. It's not even, you're not even strong to assassinate him. Everybody knows where he is. They killed him in the office of Hamas, for God's sake.
Yeah.
He was in his office. Everybody knows he's in his office, So in general, they fight our children. So yeah, I would understand how the Israelis would be tempted to come and kill children.
Yeah, it's really disgusting, and it's funny. After 6 months, I'm still asking, like, what military objectives have they actually achieved?
Nothing. They killed people, and they are like destroying Gaza, but nothing. They didn't really attack Hamas. They're making Hamas more and more popular by the second,
They
and
really
more
are.
and more experienced, actually. Yeah, and so coming back to the point where you're asking me, I mean, we are in the terms of we are in the month number 6 of an ongoing genocide. I don't want to stop and to talk about minor details in minor Lebanon that always has the same kind of drama. I mean, it's nothing new. It's the same kind of drama. Did you ever hear something different about Lebanon other than Islam or Masihiyya?
Yeah,
I mean, for the past 40, 50 years, it's all civil war, you know? It's
No,
all
I get your frustration. I
inter-problems.
really understand it. I really understand it. The Americans never want to leave the country alone. The Israelis never want to leave it alone. And the best way you make people fight is you start turning them against each other because of religion.
Of course.
It's the best way, divide and conquer. And they've mastered this. And I can't help but feeling if the Levant, if Syria, we can even call it Mesopotamia if it makes some people feel better. If it was still one, you wouldn't have all this civil war. You just wouldn't have it. I'm convinced of this.
Of course. I think they started when you go back to the books that I showed you that show you how the West used to work on us to take us from the Ottomans in the first place. When you look at these books, you understand more and more how they even started these things. Because this is their way of ruling and colonizing this piece of land, because its strength, it's also its boon, you know, like the importance of Greater Syria, Mesopotamia, the Levantine region, Bilad al-Sham. The importance of it is that it's a melting pot of religions, of ethnicities, because it has everyone from all around. So your part of you is closer to Persia, part of you is closer to Turkey, part of you is closer to Arabia, part of you is Mediterranean and open. So you're not a homogeneous piece of land. For example, Egypt, it's kind of homogeneous. Arabia is kind of homogeneous. Persia, it's kind of homogeneous. Turkey, it's kind of homogeneous. This is the only place where you have Christianity, Judaism, Islam, you have Kurds, you have Turkmen, you have Sherkas, which is like Russian-based ethnicity. You have all kinds of peoples and cultures in a melting pot of land and heritage called Mesopotamia. So the easiest thing to do is that to divide all these and keep on working on them.
Yeah.
I think it's not an if, Richard. It is a reality that era after era, we are coming to more and more aware to. So I think eventually the people who will be living in this part of land, they will become scientific enough, logic enough, healed enough from their ancestral traumas and civil wars to understand that in order to have a sovereign, good kind of governing and life, you must have a solid management for all these precious entities and a uniform, like in a united vision. Not only like we don't need to have one state. It's just the vision. We have to be aligned in one vision, because I'm telling you today, if Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and Palestine as communities, I'm talking not as states, these communities with all their activists and all their artists and all their politicians and all their rich people and businessmen and capable people were in one confidence, it would shake the world. A confidence. One confidence. I'm not talking about a state, an actual state, because we have the best people. I mean, Steve Jobs came from here. If you look around the whole world, really, if you really try and classify the people who have, the people are always travelers from this part of the world, because we live at the sea. So we always like to travel. It's in our blood. So the travelers from this part of land, if you look at them all around the world, they are the best academics. They are the best scientists. They are the best artists. Look at them, classify them. If you want to be one in dehumanizing us, be one in looking at the humans that came from this part of the land. You look at yourself, you Germany. Look what we did in your universities. Look at our artists in your music and your concerts and your opera houses. I don't understand them. really, I mean, we have like individuals and organizations who have actually helped them become smarter, become more advanced, become stronger. We built for them. In the NASA, we built for them. Respect the human while you kill them.
This is what's so funny to me is that, you know, they have such a superiority complex, and they really think that they're better than everyone. You know, and you look at this in America, you look at this in Britain, you look at this in Germany, you always find throughout time that they have this superior race complex, and they call it different things at different times. Who are they? I just want to understand what they have contributed to humanity to call themselves this way.
I think it's because they succeeded in actually ruling us. And until we understand that we have to rule ourselves, and until we respect our own sovereignty and our own heritages, we cannot expect them. I mean, I'm not at the time, Richard, maybe because you live in the West, I'm not angry with the West anymore. Really, they're doing what's best for them, maybe. I'm not angry with them. I'm angry with our people. It's not their fault that they are trying to eat us.
It's both.
What?
It's both.
No, because everybody's trying to win. They're doing it to everyone else. They did it to India. What did India do? Why can't we do what India did to itself? Or maybe it's time, you understand me? They do it wherever they can until you liberate yourself. Antunes Saadi puts it in Arabic, إن لم تكونوا أحرارا من أمة حرة فحريات الأمم عار عليكم. If you are not free from free nations, whatever freedom you attain is like it's a shame.
Yeah.
You have to be from a free nation. If I have my freedom outside, I'm not really free. I have to free my own self. So I think like if they abstain from killing us, that just means they're less genocidal, But it's not their job to be good to me. It's my job to build my own empire, to build my own structure, to build my own home, to build my own people, So I think the problem is in us, and maybe generation after generation, we will get to the awareness that maybe for the better of everyone, maybe in the era of crypto or whatever the future holds to us, people will find it more logical to look at the whole region as one, and to stop counting as if nothing happened before a British and a French guy met and they cut out this land, Georges Picot and Mark Sykes. After the World War, they just partitioned our land like that, and we just we can go back to 200 years ago maybe and look at it differently.
The difference though is that it's in the West that the West is standing up and saying we are better, we are freer, you should be like us. And so for me, that's the hypocrisy, because I agree with you that there's a lot of fault in if coming from us inside our society. But we're not going to other lands and telling them, well, I should rule you because I'm better than you. That's the difference for me.
I understand. Of course, this is not something light. The colonization that the West has been, and the wars are not something light to be like forgiven or forgotten, or their democracy wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. No, these are not to be taken lightly. But I mean, when I'm talking about us, because, I'm very frustrated with the idea that in Syria, in greater Syria, our strength are also very wide, and we have the capability. We are very close to our liberation. The wars, the ongoing wars today have making us even like more ready as a community and as humans. And you see, you get frustrated with everyone is talking now about the West, because in the way that Syria is today, the way that the Syrian community is and the economy is, and Lebanon as well, and Iraq after all these wars, I mean, really, I cannot wait for the West. I mean, the West is actually fighting me. Why am I asking them to stop? What am I doing about it? Now we have a resistance that is spread all over there. What are we doing about it?
Yeah.
Where's our unity? Why does our unity have to be in Tehran, by the way? Why? Because it's our own egos.
It should also be in the Arabic capitals. That's the thing.
Why isn't it in Baghdad? Why isn't it in Jordan? Why is Jordan too cowardly? Why don't we all tell Jordan we have your back against Israel? Man up. I mean, I can't blame Jordan because we don't have their back now. They are ruled by Mock, and they are actually occupied just as much as Palestine. But the way of the occupation playing itself out is different, you know?
Very well said.
I think there are many things to be done around the region before really waiting for the superior racist Democrats ruling the United States, or Republicans, which are worse, you know? I can't wait for them to become more humane, but I can wait for the other generation in the United States, these people that are standing in the streets and that we see them and we appreciate them, these will change America. These will change the United Kingdom. These will change their communities. These generations, they are different from their grandparents, and I love them. And they don't feel superior. No, one of them burned himself for us, Aaron Bushnell. Really, I mean, these people, I also wrote something that was like, some people was, no, I was like, these people are the innocents of the West. They are the West.
That's very well said.
That is innocent. You know, it's not always like that. I mean, some people like Rachel Corrie. I mean, I didn't do what this American girl did in Palestine. I don't think I would be brave enough to stand and wait to be crushed by a tank like she did. May God rest her soul in peace.
Yeah.
But you understand me. So this is why it's not like all black and white when we're talking about the West.
Just one thing, you know, when we talk about the Qawmi movement or Pan-Arabism, what I always ask people this when they come on the program, when they have the backgrounds that we have. Why do you think these movements receded or became less popular? And what is our movement going to be? Because we're not in the 1960s, we're not in the 1930s. So what do we do? How do we define ourselves?
Well, I don't think that the movements or the shi'arat or like the actual political party, I'm not a part of it. And when I speak about the idea or the ideology, and I speak about it with a lot of development that is needed and updating that is needed. But I'm thinking about the political idea that is maybe the only one that was started from this region. I mean, as Syria, the political thinkers or the political parties that started were like, there was the communism brought from Russia. There was Arabism brought from Arabia. But the only idea that really started from here was that. So I'm open to different ideas that would be different. The idea about the 60s, how they were and how they formed are very different. And I think today the social media has really helped us. And I think it would start by connecting on one wave and talking about one thing. And what Palestine has done to us in terms of uniting us is very big, because today I know you know that the amount of Palestinians that you're talking to is way more than before, although you have been talking about Palestine for more than 10 years on social media. I see you, Richard. We all follow you. So, and you have that kufiya since before the war, by the way, people. Richard didn't wear the kufiya after October 7. I think you were born with it, man.
I have a wardrobe full of them. I've got every color.
So the thing is, what this war is helping us is making us more aware and more ready to fight now. Because even me, I've always been like that, but I've never been like 99% of my working minutes are for Palestine. Today, I'm like this, and everything I want to do, I think like, will it serve that or not? For Palestine and for that idea that I believe in, for my conviction. So I think the war reminded us, the youth. I'm not so young anymore, but like the younger politicians or activists in this region. You speak
like we're 60 years old or something.
No, I mean, but now we're not Generation Z. You see, I think Generation Z are the leaders, Richard. We're old people for them.
Rubbish.
I mean, I was born. So, anyways, what I think about is like today. You made me forget. Thinking about the age, I just forgot my idea. So I think today, these politicians of today were reminded. I was reminded. I'm sure you were reminded. And many of the people who were like giving 50-50 or 60-40, we were reminded that we don't have the luxury to postpone the fight. It's right here. It's right now. So I think this has also made it like it's really escalating things and the amount of activism in the region, and it's really like catalyzing the formation of new entities, new political entities. I know me and my friends were always like, okay, why are we waiting for something to happen? We should do something. We are capable now to do something. You, me, I mean, we're adults enough, and the war is pressing enough, and the void in the political sphere is big enough. I can't let Syria be governed by only Al-Ikhwan Muslimin, the Islamic Brotherhood, or Al-Ba'ath. This is insane today.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot let Palestine be Fatah and Hamas. This is also insane today. I cannot Lebanon be Samir Jaja, or Nabih Berri. This is also insane. I mean,
we have more diversity than that. We owe that to ourselves, I feel.
No. I mean, the tides have changed and Palestine have changed, and we are closer to the end of this dark century. And I have full belief that we will see the free Palestine. Now, people want to be brave enough to work for it, or want to be cowardly and just sit and watch it happen. It's their choice. I'm one of the people who have chosen to give my life to it. And I think you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we'll end on that note. Thank you, Ghadi, for being so poetic and genuine in your love for Palestine and Syria and Lebanon and the entire Arab peoples and world. And I want to just tell people to follow you on social media. This is your Twitter.
Thank you.
Do you have any other...
Thank you for the shout out.
Of course. I see there's an Instagram link as well in your bio. Are there any things you want to plug, or go ahead?
I'm working on these. I'm working on these two now, but they're not monetized enough. But thank you for doing the shout out. I'm just posting on Instagram a little bit, like personal and activism just came up now. Twitter has always been my place to share my views that are not always correct, but we are always learning more and more. As per this conversation, Richard, I have been your fan since forever, since you started working on Assange, and I'm really honored to have been interviewed by you.
The honor is all mine. Thank you very much, Ghadi, for coming on. And everybody, please make sure that you follow her on social media. The link is below in the chat and the description.